A 15-year-old boy with special needs who knew so little about what life should be outside the basement closet was found deceased, with the monster responsible for his death hiding in his own home. On Wednesday, July the 6th, around 6:30 a.m., Norton Shores, Michigan police responded to an emergency call regarding a suspicious death at 4788 Marshall Road on Mascon. Arriving at the scene, they found 15-year-old Timothy Ferguson dead, lying down on the ground inside their home.
Job long enough, you're going to see a lot of things that are very disturbing.
Numerous criminal incidents concerning child maltreatment, such as the case of 8 passengers, have been addressed on this platform. However, the demise of Timothy Ferguson stands out one of the most unsettling narratives we have ever reported. The law enforcement officials present at the location remain unable to elucidate the horrifying aspects of the maltreatment discovered in this residence, particularly involving an undernourished teenager with special needs. Certain aspects of the video may be distressing for certain audience members. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
88 Marshall Road. There they find 50.
The deceased boy was said to be the son of Shanda Vander Ark, 44 years of age, and was the middle child amongst the 3 siblings. Known as Timothy Ferguson, Timothy had been diagnosed with autism at a very young age and needed special care and understanding. In an interview of one of Sandra's neighbors, it was highlighted that even though they were living in their house for quite some time now, they most likely kept to themselves.
It seemed like she was just, she's really to herself a lot.
You're going to see a lot of things that are very disturbing.
What had really happened? Officers attended to a 911 call regarding an unresponsive male teenager. Upon their arrival, it was discovered that the teenager had already passed away, and signs of malnutrition and abuse were evident. Following Sandra's apprehension, her 21-year-old son, Paul Ferguson, was subsequently arrested and charged.
If you do this job long enough, you're going to see a lot of things that are very disturbing. Clear that this wasn't the first time that our victim, this 15-year-old, had suffered the hands of the...
I want you to look at the entire picture here. I will tell you this, the entire picture is just as horrific. At the time of his death, Timothy Ferguson weighed 69 pounds. How does a 15-year-old child die as a result of malnutrition? Is every movement monitored by his mother on those cameras? You will hear.
Matt Roberts, Mascon's County Chief Trial Attorney, observed at one point Timothy engaged in the appalling act of consuming the crust of a burger, prompting Shanda Vander Ark to instruct Paul Ferguson to induce vomiting. Unfortunate as it was, Paul complied with her directive. Roberts further commented that it was challenging to fathom the degree of depraved indifference exhibited towards Timothy Ferguson. During the primary hearing in the July 2023, Roberts conveyed that the medical examiner determined Timothy's cause of death to be a combination of hypothermia and malnourishment.
So his cause, the other finding that I'm going to clarify because it went into the cause, was that we were able to determine that he was severely dehydrated as well. And that was from the testing on the eye fluid, which gave us additional information that demonstrated that. But his cause of death was dehydration and extreme emaciation due to malnutrition and starvation. Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
All right. Yeah, there was I also contributed. There's another significant contributing condition, and that was something called exogenous hypothermia, meaning hypothermia, but it was from outside sources. You can actually have a condition in your body where you don't make enough heat, and that's endogenous, so your body's not doing the right thing. But in this case, it was, and most of our hypothermia deaths are from cold exposure.
You will hear in the text messages between Paul Ferguson and Shanda Vander Ark, the extent of the horrors they inflicted upon Timothy. Again, you don't have to take my word for it. You will hear the text messages. You will see right there in print, right there before your very eyes, everything that I'm telling you. So ladies and gentlemen, at the conclusion of these very difficult proofs, I will be asking you to return a verdict of guilty, the charge of first-degree felony murder and first-degree child abuse.
He continued by stating that when the officers arrived that morning, they unwittingly entered what seemed to be like a prison cell. The horrors revealed surpassed those inflicted on prisoners of war protected by the Geneva Protection, which are not typically subjected to prisoners in the United States. Prosecutors argued that Timothy was exposed to extended ice baths, regulated bathroom breaks in a basement closet, restrained with only adult diapers, and monitored through cameras and vibration detectors. Before Timothy's arrival on May 27, 2021, Shanda Vander Ark had her two sons, Paul and the only child referred to as G. Allegedly, Timothy's biological father warned Shanda that he would involve the child's services if she didn't take Timothy in. When Timothy moved in, Shanda lived with Paul, G, and Paul's stepfather, Adam Ferguson, until January 2022. Paul testified that after Adam suffered a stroke in that month, he moved back to his parents' home, leaving Paul and Shanda responsible for the two younger kids. As of February 2022, Paul stated that, following Shanda's instructions, he assumed the role of disciplining Timothy. In opening statements, Roberts asserted that the defendant ensured that Timothy Ferguson's actions were concealed from view, hidden from anyone witnessing eyes. Notably, she couldn't even provide a picture of him on her cell phone for the last 6 months of his life.
We all use it because it works, and it works well, and it's very utilitarian, and we love it. But I think if we had a chance to think about it, we'd all admit that what you text isn't everything that's going on. That what you text doesn't tell the whole story. The text you sent today don't tell the whole story of your whole day. They just tell a portion of it. They tell a snippet. They tell a story. But they probably don't tell what happened to you from the time you got up and you couldn't find your left shoe to the time you're going to go to sleep tonight and wishing you had an extra slice of that pie for dessert. It doesn't tell you all that stuff, right? It tells you a snippet. It tells you a bit. It doesn't tell if you're mad or you're kidding.
In approaching opening statements, Frederick Johnson, the defense attorney for Shanda, addressed the unusual nature of the case. He remarked that it's peculiarly strange delving into parts of the human mind one would rather avoid. The defense centers on the concepts of knowing and intentional. Johnson contended that Shanda and Paul were unaware they were causing Timothy's death, and it was not their intention to do so. The recurring theme, according to Johnson, is that Shanda Vander Ark and her son, Paul Ferguson, were oblivious to the harm they were causing the boy. It wasn't until Timothy's death that they grasped the extent of the harm. Upon realizing their actions had crossed the line, Johnson mentioned that they panicked and attempted to fabricate stories. He asserted that it was Paul who advocated for physically disciplining Timothy, referred to as the boy.
It tells you a snippet. It tells you a portion. It tells you a particle. And that's what text messages do. The greatness of text messages are they're great. It's in the message. The weakness of them is they don't tell the whole story. And if someone were to grab someone's phone and look at what they did from a year and a half ago and try to figure out what they were thinking based on their text, they know that snippet.
When Adam, Shanda's partner, suffered a stroke, leaving her alone to manage a job and 3 children, Johnson stated that her life started unraveling. While emphasizing their love for Timothy, Johnson noted that Shanda and Paul failed to perceive the gravity of the situation that was apprehended on the lookers like the jury. He added that Paul wishes he could alter the past, but both he and Shanda believed they were merely disciplining Timothy, not subjecting him to torture. The defense also asserted that Timothy embarked on a hunger strike approximately 3 weeks before his death.
Thank you, Your Honor. My next witness is already in the witness chair, and that is Paul Ferguson.
All right, Mr. Ferguson, can you please rise and raise your right hand as best you can? In this matter now pending, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right, you put your hand down, grab a seat. Please state your name for the record, spelling your first name and last name.
Paul Ferguson, Paulferguson.
Mr. Ferguson, you are testifying here today, and is it your understanding that you do have an agreement with the Muskegon County Prosecutor's Office in exchange for your testimony today against your mother, the defendant in this case, Shanda Vander Ark?
Yes, sir.
And is it your understanding that as part of that agreement, the people have agreed that none of your testimony today would be used against you should you exercise your right to have a trial in the pending criminal matter against you?
Yes, sir.
And is it also your understanding that in exchange for your testimony today, you understand that the prosecutor's office will make representations to the judge that oversees your case if such time is reached that you are sentenced in that matter, and that you hope to get some sentencing benefit as a result of your testimony today?
Yes, sir.
And is that in exchange for your truthful testimony today?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware of any other promises in regards to your testimony today?
No, sir.
And and for clarity's sake, you are also charged in this matter involving the death of your brother. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what charges are brought against you at this point?
Child abuse first degree.
And what do you understand the potential maximum penalty for?
In his testimony, Paul refuted the prosecution's claim, revealing that after Adam's stroke, he took on the responsibility of disciplining Timothy. By February 2022, he and Shanda discussed restricting Timothy's access to food, citing the boy's unnecessary consumption. This led to the installation of locks on the fridge, freezer, and pantry, with Sandra making the decisions on which foods were deemed necessary. As April approached, Paul disclosed that Timothy started removing the locks by hand, prompting Shanda to instruct him to replace them. Paul acknowledged Timothy's conditions, including attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and autism, along with speech and movement impairments. Despite the prescribed medications, Paul noted that Timothy has ceased taking them at Sanda's discretion. When asked about Timothy's medical visits, Paul revealed that he never went to the doctor after moving in. Both Timothy and G were homeschooled, with Shanda rarely permitting Timothy to leave the house. Paul disclosed that Timothy's school assignments transitioned from a tablet to printed copies, and he detailed that how he made Timothy run up and down backyard stairs out of sight of passively to ensure he moved faster. Over 6 months, Paul observed Timothy's physical deterioration, emphasizing that there was no hunger strike but rather food restrictions imposed by Shanda. The house was equipped with locks, cameras, and vibration detectors, including on Timothy, allowing Paul and Shanda to monitor him through a cell phone app that alerted them to any motion or movement. Shanda allegedly installed surveillance equipment in the closet, monitoring Timothy even while he was asleep. Alarm systems and motion sensors were set up, and Paul affirmed that he was tasked with watching the cameras when Shanda couldn't. Timothy faced various punishments, including wall sits and standing against walls for extended periods, both upstairs and in the closet. In the confined space, Timothy had to maintain specific positions, with vibrator detectors attached to his pants and hands, causing discomfort. Paul detailed their conflicting work schedules, with Shanda employed as a court clerk during the day, while Paul worked evening at Apple Pies. Due to this, they were rarely at home together. Timothy was relocated from a bunk bed to a closet, where a tarp was placed due to Shanda's concern about urination on the floor. Timothy wore adult diapers, and Shanda regulated his bathroom time, allowing only 1 minute for urination and 2 minutes for other purposes.
He was pulling them off by hand.
And what were you instructed to do as a result of him pulling the pantry door locks off?
Let me ask you this way: were you given some instruction to replace that lock?
Shanda instructed Paul to feed Timothy bread with hot sauce as a form of punishment for alleged misbehavior. Ice baths were another part of Timothy's ordeal, with Paul following Shanda's orders to administer 3 baths 3 times before Timothy's death. On June 13, 2022, Paul sent Shanda a photo of an emaciated Timothy, expressing concern, to which she only advised giving him bread. Shanda allegedly escalated the cruelty, instructing Paul to pour hot sauce directly into Timothy's mouth. In April 2022, after Timothy ate the crust of a burger, Shanda ordered Paul to induce vomiting multiple times, a process monitored through the surveillance system. In the harrowing testimony, Paul detailed how he followed his mother Sandra's cruel instructions to subject his brother Timothy to a 30-minute ice bath monitored through a camera. Shanda insisted Timothy remained uncomfortable, preventing him from turning the water hot. When Paul expressed concern about Timothy's emaciated state, Shanda dismissively instructed giving him bread. The situation intensified as Timothy became unresponsive. But instead of seeking medical help, Shanda directed Paul to place him in the ice bath to revive him. Paul described the heartbreaking scene of dragging his unresponsive brother to the bathroom and adhering to Sandra's ruthless suggestions, including to use of hot sauce. Despite Timothy's critical condition, Shanda instructed Paul to leave him unattended in the ice bath during their evening routine.
They were normally tied to the back loop of his belt, or the back loop of his pants, I apologize.
And was there something placed on his wrist as well at that point?
Handcuffs, and before that, zip ties, zip cuffs.
When you say zip cuffs, are those put together with zip ties?
Yes.
And those were designed to restrict what?
Movement.
Of what part of his body?
His hands.
I think there's a text exchange that the jury's heard a couple of times where it's referencing him tightening those zip cuffs on his wrist. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
And so what was happening that caused you to send that text message and had that exchange with your mother about those zip cuffs?
He was complaining about them being too tight.
Timothy remained in the ice bath throughout the night, with Sandra texting at 11:30 p.m. to confirm his status. Paul, returning home around 1 a.m., unaware of Timothy's dire state, discovered his lifeless brother in the closet the next morning. Shanda refused to call 911, leaving Paul futilely attempting resuscitation. The testimony depicted a distressing scenario of a brother coerced into carrying out abusive acts under Shanda's control, resulting in Timothy's tragic death. Shanda involved Paul in the disturbing process of removing Timothy from the closet, instructing him on a fabricated narrative during the critical minutes before calling 911. When the police arrived, Paul and Shanda were alone in the house, and Shanda spent the night disposing the evidence, including vibration detectors and cameras, exacerbating Timothy's suffering with loud alarms.
Rise.
From Shanda Vander Ark was declared guilty on all charges on December 15, 2023 in Muskin County Circuit Court trial. The deliberations began just after 2:35 p.m., following closing statements from both sides and a brief rebuttal from the prosecutor's office. Additionally, Judge Casel provided the jury with the option to consider lesser charges of either voluntary or involuntary manslaughter. During her testimony on Thursday afternoon, Vander Ark caused a temporary halt in court proceedings by appearing to vomit or dry heave after seeing a photo of Timothy's body. and was rendered ineffective as the trial went on.
The people of the state of Michigan versus Shanda Vander Ark, count 1, charging open murder involving the death of Timothy Ferguson. We find her guilty of first-degree felony murder. Count 2, first-degree child abuse. We find her guilty of first-degree child abuse.
All right, thank you.
Returning to the courtroom just before 4:30 p.m. Same day, the jury delivered their verdict, finding Shanda Vander Ark guilty of both first-degree murder and first-degree child abuse in the tragic death of her 15-year-old son, Timothy Ferguson. And that ends today's video. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more videos that criminally blow your minds.